Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now August 6th of 2025, and given that the Meghan Markle drama continues and it's only getting worse over time as we get closer to the release of With Love Meghan Season 2, or as I like to call it, With Love Meghan Season 1 Part 2, that's the reality of the situation and what it really is. However, focusing on everything of what's going on here between Meghan Markle, herself of course, the Netflix executives, the producers over there, including Ted Sarandos, the CEO, it's really beginning to go out of control beyond belief. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Meghan Markle for sure is that we all know that she is very narcissistic and she continues to actually keep on, going on with that overall personality of being very much insufferable. She continues to actually double down on her agenda when it comes to her views on society, when it comes to her views on quote-unquote toxic masculinity, sexism and misogyny, and how that's a big problem within this country, and especially, of course, throughout the entire world. That's all that she ever focuses on, and that's basically always her ongoing talking point in her debate. Now, it's interesting here about Meghan Markle and exactly what just transpired between herself and Ted Sarandos and the rest over at Netflix may actually leave a lot of people out there shocked. Now, we know one thing about Netflix right now is that they are trying to salvage their image, or whatever's left of their image at this point, not after only doubling down on the Meghan Markle nonsense, but also after removing content and actually putting subpar content in replacement of that, and while, of course, raising rates, bumping up prices for their subscription plans. Now, with the Meghan Markle drama only getting worse behind the scenes and in the public eye, one major development going on now involves more to do with Meghan Markle's investigation that is still going on behind the scenes by both Netflix executives and producers before they roll out With Love Meghan Season 2. Now, it turns out that Netflix producers came across yet another shocking discovery that left them in panic mode after they witnessed another example of Meghan Markle engaging in plagiarism for her show back when she held creative power for the series and even admitted to something specific about her being very much guilty. It turns out that Meghan Markle had an entire scene that copied a TV show called The Great Food Truck Race that debuted back in 2010. The scene that Meghan Markle and Netflix had filmed before the reshoots involved Meghan Markle and some of her friends and celebrity cameos that made cameos competed against each other on the streets of Malibu in different food trucks to see who would attract the most customers. It turns out that this was going to be the very episode that would change up the format of With Love Meghan for Netflix. However, after Meghan Markle got caught copying a show from 2010, she was just recently approached by Netflix executives that they scrubbed the entire episode and are recreating a new one with the extra reshoots available since they shot so much extra footage on hand. Now, Meghan Markle has always claimed in the beginning that it wasn't copying the food truck series and that she only took inspiration from the show. In addition to all of this, Meghan also got very angry toward Ted Sarandos for doubling down in this investigation to make sure that they flush out any examples of plagiarism in their upcoming show before it airs, and they are still going through the entire show frame by frame and bringing in experts to identify whether or not certain scenes are copying other programs from recently or years and years ago. Turns out that when confronted by Netflix executives and producers, and after a series of intense questions by executives, she reportedly caved and admitted that she was guilty to copying the shows since she believed nobody would actually have noticed anyway, since the shows were so old and outdated. This sent Ted Sarandos into a furious state, mind you, since this goes back to him as he is the one that approved the scene to be filmed back in November of 2024 when they were doing additional filming for the show. Now guys, let me just say one thing about Ted Sarandos. Yes, technically, if you really want to boil everything down to him, it is. It is all the cause by Ted Sarandos. He is the one that caused all of this trouble for Netflix. He should have seen this coming. He should have known that Meghan Markle is not only difficult to work with, but she's a liar, she's narcissistic, she's insufferable, very hard to work with, right? And overly demanding. And that's exactly why a lot of studios that she was negotiating with decided to just say, you know what, let's toss out this deal and throw it in the trash, we're done with you. That's basically what happened with a lot of studios in the film industry with Meghan Markle, and here you have it again. She's copying another show, and she admitted to doing so behind the scenes, of acting in plagiarism, and this one specifically had to do with the food truck series back in 2010. And it makes you mind-boggled, it really does. The fact that they were trying to change up the format of an already, disastrous show that failed at the ratings across the board. They wanted to change things up for one episode where they would have a competition in food trucks, literally copying that show from 2010. Now, granted, this one was actually based in Malibu. This scene was based in Malibu. The actual other series, it's all about traveling the country. But this, Meghan Markle even opened up that it was indeed her intentions of copying that show and throwing it into this episode because she believed that it's old, it's outdated anyway, no one would even notice, and it's not that much of a big deal. That's her overall defense. A terrible defense, by the way, and a very weak one at that. However, to make matters even worse, after Meghan Markle admitted she was guilty of these serious acts of copying other programs like Gordon Ramsay's shows, as we discussed, and even Rachel Ray's show, she also caved and actually told Netflix that she had copied scenes from Pamela Anderson's Cooking with Love and doubled down by saying that this just happens in show business. People copy each other all the time, which was yet again another flat-out lie coming from Meghan Markle. This all comes after her contract deal was canceled by Netflix, and they decided to scrub many of her backup shows for the streaming platform, which consisted of a fashion show and a travel series, just for starters. Now look, like I've said before, this is exactly why people are just done with Netflix, because they continue to actually support this nonsense. And it's not just that, they tend to remove a lot of good movies, a lot of good TV shows from years ago that people like to rewatch all the time, and it just vanishes out of nowhere and it goes elsewhere. For example, to other platforms like Hulu or HBO Max or whatever it may be. Things move, but Netflix does it way more than often, right? Way more than other platforms do. And then they put on other material that nobody even wants to watch. And they raise rates. So that's why people are just fed up with Meghan Markle's nonsense, and of course with Netflix. And I gotta say one thing about this, if they really wanted to, if they really wanted to right now, they could cancel this show outright. It would cost a buttload of money, alright? That is an actual fact. It would cost a ton of money because the contract deal with Meghan is so very much complex. It's very difficult, and there's a lot of different routes that you would have to take to actually complete that. But one thing about this is sure, is that we know that Ted Sarandos is beginning to realize that this is all coming back on him. It's actually making him look bad, and you know what? Rightfully so, because he is the one that brought Meghan Markle in. He's the one that praised Meghan Markle months and months ago, saying that she's the best thing to arrive to Netflix. Well, not necessarily, because her contract deal is not getting renewed. If she was such a success point, she would have had a contract renewal. That's just a fact. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about Meghan Markle and her recent drama and her opening up to being guilty about actually copying others' work. Like I say, the food truck show, Pamela Anderson, Gordon Ramsay, Rachel Ray, etc. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.